All right, depending on how you look at yesterday's news about Steph Curry, it could be good or it could be bad. After getting his foot rolled on in the game versus Boston on Wednesday, an MRI showed no structural damage or serious injury. So that's the good part. The not so good part is that Curry is expected to miss the rest of the regular season with a foot sprain. The hope is that he'll be able to return by the start of the Western Conference playoffs. That, according to Woj and Ramona Shelburne. Perk is here with us now, and I want to talk about your glasses, because are those prescription?
No, they not. It's called fashion, Christine.
It's just the swag. Fashion. I just made sure that's what you were bringing with us today.
Yeah.
Okay, Perk. So Steph, Klay, and Draymond have only played 2 games together this season, and now this is happening. So are the Warriors' titles hopes over?
Hell yeah, they over. And look, it's not because of the lack of playing time that Steph, Klay, and Draymond has had this season. Look, these guys have played together their entire career. They know how to find the chemistry. It's about the others. And when you saw Steve Kerr get mad the other night at Marcus Smart, yes, it was about protecting Steph Curry, but it was about him having 12 games left in the season and him trying to find his rotations, trying to find the continuity, trying to find the chemistry. Remember, Klay got back, and I said this, it was going to be guys that were going to have to play different roles. Now you have to find out where you're going to play Jordan Poole, how you going to play Kuminga, how is Draymond and Kuminga going to play with one another. And if you're a head coach, when you get to this period of time where it matters the most, going into the home stretch, the last part of the season, you want to have guys knowing their roles and knowing their place. And that's why I say that with Steph Curry being injured and not coming back into the playoffs, that yes, I strongly believe that the Warrior title hopes are done for this season, period.
I disagree with that. I disagree that it's done. I will concede that it's a bit tougher because the likelihood is that they're not going to be a 2 seed, which means in order for them to get out of the West, they're going to have not 1 but 2 series where they're the road team. They're not the home team in a potential Game 7, whether it be against Memphis, whether it be against Phoenix. I totally get all of that. But when I think about the Golden State Warriors, I'm not going to summarily dismiss the experience. And I'm going to tell you something right now. Klay coming back compromised them to some degree because they didn't look as good as they looked at times when he was out, because you're trying to fit him back to the equation and get him going. And so he's had games where he's exploded, and then there were other games where he just seemed a bit distant and a bit out of it, like when we were at the Lakers game, when the NBA Countdown team was at the Lakers game that Saturday night when LeBron dropped 56. So with stuff like that, he only scored like 7 points that game or something along those lines. So I understand that, but that was without the services of Draymond Green. I think Draymond Green's is pivotal to their success. I think that he's a point forward and an orchestrator on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, he's definitely their captain. He talks on defense. He holds individuals accountable, and I think they'll be better exponentially defensively. Here's where it gets interesting for me, KP. Have you seen Jordan Poole lately? He's averaging 17 on the season. Last 8 games, he scored a minimum of 20 points, dropped about 32 against Denver, had 29 the other night against Boston. With Steph Curry being out, the style of play that Jordan Poole plays, how he pulls the trigger quick, and he doesn't need a lot of space in order to get off that shot or whatever. I think he's going to flourish. He's going to step in and play the role that Steph Curry usually plays. I think you're going to see offensive explosions from Jordan Poole in the days to come. Now, how that's going to work once Steph Curry gets back is why I hear what you're saying. All I'm saying is I can't rule it out, because what if they're comfortable playing with one another enough where when Steph comes back, the shot's going to still be there. Jordan Poole has elevated his level of play. Klay is going to be more of a focal point of the offense with Steph out as well, and Draymond is back healthy. I don't think you can look at the Warriors and say their title hopes are over. It might be, but it might not be. This could potentially work to their advantage is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but Stephen A., listen, I'm not knocking Jordan Poole, but I want you to realize, and you know this, in the playoffs comes adjustments, right? Just say hypothetically that Steph Curry is not back. No, Jordan Poole get a lot of his success based off the attention that Steph Curry's put on the defense. When it's playoff time, I need to see if he could still be that guy when it's an hour scouting report that's being put on him. No. See, it's a difference. See, when you're in that film room, that stack of papers get this thick on you. That stack of papers... Yeah.
But we're making two separate points. Like, I'm not disagreeing with that. That's totally accurate. Okay. I totally get that. What I'm saying to you is, first of all, we're assuming Steph Curry's going to be back. We're making it because you're right. The title hopes are gone if Steph Curry can't play. We're not talking about the Warriors as title as champions if Steph Curry can't play. We're assuming he needs to be out for the rest of the regular season so he can be ready for the playoffs. So if Curry is ready for the playoffs because there's no sustainable injury to it, this injury he incurred, then with this foot sprain, then we're talking about Steph Curry being fresh because he's got some rest on the rest of his legs, mind you. Okay, his legs are rested. We're talking about him being fresh because the concern we had about him is that he was losing some of the legs because of the load that he had to carry, particularly with Klay out the first part of the season, Draymond out the second part of the season. He comes back, Klay and Draymond is in the mix, and then you have Jordan Poole, who's elevated his level of play, but he's not the number one option. I think this could end up working wonders for the Golden State Warriors.
But Stephen A., to your point, you are right. You're hitting a lot of points, but let's just see when Steph comes back. Because let me remind you, right, he has a history of ankle problems. And now he's dealing with this. So we just don't know. Again, we don't know. But I'm looking at it right now in the way teams are playing across the league. And I'm looking at the Western Conference, what the Mavericks are doing, what Memphis is doing, and what Denver is doing. And I just think that, and Draymond said it himself, health is everything. So I just want to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it at that.
But all I'm saying is when we make our predictions and our prognostications, we shove injuries aside because that's a given. We know if they're not healthy, it's not a discussion. When I'm talking about if Steph comes back healthy, I'm not talking about what you're going to do without Steph. Because without Steph, we ain't talking about them as winning the title out west. But with Steph back, fresh legs, and the rest of the dudes ready to go, now we're talking a different story is all I'm saying.
Kirk, you got anything?
No, he's good. He's good.
All right.
He's good. He's good. He's looking good, too, and he's feeling good. He's looking good and feeling good.
Exactly.
He's in 75-degree weather. Don't feel sorry for him. He's in 75-degree weather, man. Don't feel sorry for him.
All right, Perk, don't go anywhere.
Sun shining in the back.
Has made it clear that he wants out of Cleveland. All right, we have our friend and college basketball analyst Seth Greenberg here to talk about it. Seth, I loved your tweet this morning about Kentucky. You said, yeah, of course, you had them in this matchup. But we heard what Calipari just said. Do you feel like he was outcoached last night?
A head coach is responsible for how his team plays offensively and defensively and how they compete. And in relation to how St. Peter's competed and how St. Peter's played, yeah, he was outcoached. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, here's the situation. Like, Oscar Tshiebwe was terrific yesterday, 11 for 16. The rest of the team was 15 for 45. They missed 6 free throws in overtime. But more importantly, I didn't think their defensive game plan was very, very good. And Shaheen Holloway did a great job. They pressured the backcourt of Kentucky, pushed them out, distorted them, and basically took them out of the game. And then offensively, St. Peter's was 50 from the field, 52 from the three, and basically dominated the game. So Shaheen Holloway did an absolutely incredible job, John Calipari, because in coaching, basically, the players get the wins, the coaches get the losses. He's responsible for the loss, and he'll be held accountable.
I'm thinking about John Calipari. I've known him for many years. Remember, Coach, that I used to coach Temple University when I was at the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I've known John Calipari since the days that he was at UMass with guys like Lou Rowe, Marcus Camby, Mike Williams, and those boys. Bruiser Flint was his assistant coach, et cetera, et cetera. He's been around for a long time. He's been to a few Final Fours, et cetera. He's got one national championship. How should we look at John Calipari today, considering how epic this loss is? This is one of the biggest losses. I think it's like top 2 in NCAA tournament history. That's how big this loss was. How should we be looking at John Calipari this morning?
Look, John Calipari is a Hall of Fame coach whose team didn't play well, and he's responsible for them not playing well, and he'll be held accountable in terms of perception for not playing well. It's an epic loss. It's probably very similar to what happened with Virginia and Tony Bennett losing to UMBC, or Bill Self, losing to Lehigh. I mean, these things are going to happen. Here's what you don't understand. When you get to the NCAA tournament, the team you're playing against, whether it's Iowa playing against Richmond or whether it's Kentucky playing against St. Peter's, those dudes expect to win. They're not an opponent, just someone to play against in the opening round. All right, they've won 20 games. They've won 25 games. Those guys have pride. They're going to compete. How people are going to look at John Calipari? I guess the naysayers are going to say, John Calipari, the game passed him by. John Calipari didn't do a great job with this team. I'm not sure how good the team was in terms of sending guys into the NBA. But John Calipari's won national championships. He's been to Final Fours at 3 different schools. He's knocked at the door. Is he disappointed? No doubt about it, he's disappointed. It's crushing. It's crushing for him. It's crushing for the Big Blue Nation. It's crushing for those kids. But, to me, it's one game. Does one game define a guy's career? No.